Recording in progress. Okay, lovely. So welcome. Hello, I've not done a video for a little while, but it is getting around to International Scottish Gin Day. And I thought it would be a really nice opportunity to have a catch up with Martin Murray of Bernadette Distillers, who produce Rock Rose Gin, amongst some other wonderful products. You may be familiar with Martin from last year. We had a chat with him last year for International Scottish Gin Day, and it all went so well we decided to do another one this year, which is lovely. A quick bit about me. My name's Bernadette Pamplin. I write on Under the Ginfluence and the Spirits Writer and Judge. And I just want to mention the Craft Distilling Expo because they're kindly letting me host my video on their YouTube channel. And we have our event next week, Thursday the 6th and Friday the 7th of October at the Truman Brewery, London. So I'm just going to mention that. And just very quickly, I'd like to pop over to Martin to introduce yourself as well.
Hello, thank you very much. Can't believe it's a year already. That's frightening. Yeah, so I'm Martin Murray, one half of Bernadette Distillers. We're right up on the north coast of Scotland, and it's myself and Claire that set up the distillery way back in 2014. So we're just over 8 years old, and half of them have been celebrating International Scottish Gin Day. So yeah, quite a time already, 8 years.
Yeah, and amazing, and well done for touching on that. So I did have a little note that I was probably going to forget to say is the 4th annual one. So that's coming up on the 1st of October, and that's when I'm hoping to have this hosted with some writing as well on my website. And I just want to say a big congratulations to Martin and Natalie Reid, the Gin Cooperative as well, because this year they've hosted the Gin Cooperative Awards for the first time, which has been fantastic. I was a judge for that, and I was just saying to Martin actually before we started that the organisation and the philosophy and their direction and what they're doing with it is really, really good. So it's certainly one to watch out for in the next few years. You were a finalist, weren't you?
Yeah,
the industry choice.
Delighted to be a finalist, and you're right about the organisation. I thought the feedback from the awards was first class, but everything about the process was excellent. You know, Martin and Natalie are both very passionate about Scottish gin, but also about gin as a category. So you find that they really put a lot of work into that detail up front on how the awards are going to be judged, and then also how the feedback is going to be given. And I thought it was first class. Yeah,
really well done. So yeah, super excited to see how that grows in the next few years. Certainly one to watch. Yeah. So just quickly, I'd say it's been a year, gone very quickly. So just a little touch base really with you. How are things going?
Well, it's been a quick year. We've got a lot on the go at the moment with this business, but then also with our future project, which is starting to take up a lot more of my time. But it's been good. You know, we've started to see recovery in lots of our export markets, which hadn't been there the last 2 years. We've obviously welcomed back international tourists to our visitor experience here, and that's been great. You know, it's just something that you took for granted pre-2020, and now that it's come back, you appreciate it all the more. So really nice having people over from the US, from Sweden, from Japan, all come into our wee village distillery, and it's great for the team. It's just nice to have that.
Certainly, I'm a big fan of distillery visits. It's something I've become to focus on a lot with my work, is the connection that you make to the people who make the product. And it's all nice drinking something that's well made and tastes nice, but for me it becomes so much more when you learn about the people and the journey they've gone through to make it, and the stories behind it, and seeing that all in action at a distillery it's one of the best things you can do, I think. With that, actually, we shall move on to one of your gins. Now, this was part of your core range from yesterday, but it was the limited edition before. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. We wanted to kind of trial it. We had some bottles, spare capacity for printing for bottles, so we decided to use that spare capacity to print a limited run to try it out. And plus, if we'd waited for the next available production slot, because of the way the world is at the moment, it would have delayed things 3 or 4 months. So we decided to go with it, release it as a limited edition on our website, and it was really popular. You know, it was something that was missing from our core range without us ever overly thinking about it. And when we released it, it became so popular overnight, and then had a waiting list of people looking to buy it through the website, that we then brought it into the family of core products with us. So it's a smoked orange edition. And when you look at all the different flavor profiles we have through our gin, we didn't have anything that played with smoke. And it's to Craig Chambers, who's the distiller who made this for us. It's to his credit that he identified this gap in our range, and from that we kind of let him loose. We said, go and try it, go and take this concept and see where it leads you. So he started to play with different ways to introduce smoke to the spirit, and then complementary flavors to balance the smoke out, because if we just made it a smoky gin, it might have just been too overpowering. So tried to bring something in that kind of worked well with the smoke. So we tried different fruits, different experiments, and the orange was the best that worked really well. The smoked orange was just a lovely flavor. So the idea was Craig's, then the recipe development was done by Craig, and then the final product kind of approval was done by Craig, and we got to sample his 3 different versions of the product, and we all kind of voted, and the one that you drink now was the one that was the most popular. There's a lot of challenges in there, because trying to introduce smoke to the spirit can be done a number of ways, and we wanted to do it in such a gentle, subtle way, but not so subtle that it wasn't there. So we tried different teas, we tried different smokes, and we introduced the Lapsang Souchong tea into the still itself, but then we also did some cold infusion afterwards, because when we tried both separate, it didn't work, but a blend of the two worked really well in balance with the orange. So yeah, it's for us as owners, it's a great addition, because it's something we've given a young graduate the chance to run with and take through, and for him it's enormously rewarding to see then the feedback from people when they do the tastings, and the feedback that came through on the website and on social after it. It's really great, because for a young graduate, you don't often get the chance to kind of have the change released to go and run a recipe through from idea all the way through to production to distribution to overseas market. So quite nice feather in his cap.
Absolutely, and well done for kind of giving him that opportunity and letting him run with it, because you've got such a great product for it. It's I mean, you know, people talk orange and gin, it's like the people kind of put these flavors together. It's actually quite hard to make a decent, you know, orange. Did you get in the balance of that is one thing, and you're quite right with the smoke. Like, it can be so overbearing. Sometimes I try one, they taste like bacon or frazzles, and it just becomes very meaty almost.
Yeah.
And you've got 2 quite strong flavors here, but they balance really, really well, and it's not overdone. It makes me think of it does make me think, I do kind of want to marinate stuff with it. I think it's because it's almost like it's marmalade-y type thing.
Yeah.
That makes me think of like gammon at Christmas and stuff like that. And you've kind of got these herbal notes in the background as well, so it's got this lovely complexity. Balances out really, really lovely. So congratulations, and also very autumnal. So it's a really good time of year for having this product in the range, I would say.
I guess the smoke automatically draws you to thoughts of fires, and that's kind of autumnal bonfire night, is that kind of link. And you're right about the smoke, because we played with smoke that made it taste like TCP, that made it taste like fish, and I really don't want a smoked fish gin. I'm not what we're trying to do with this edition. So yeah, trying to get the right type of smoke, the right depth of smoke is quite a challenge. And then even with the orange, you know, it's easy to say that it's just orange, but we don't go to that level of detail. We go below that. So we looked at trying the top part of the peel, so more of the oil and less of the pith, so it's not so bitter. Tried sweet orange, bitter orange, different types. So we then settled on an organic orange, which has a higher oil content, and we then have to peel them all here at the distillery. So, you know, it kind of grows arms and legs when you get into that detail of playing with the botanicals.
Yeah, and it's well, you've got a great product to show for it, and I think stuff like this in these conversations are really important to have, because I don't think people realise sometimes how much effort goes into it. You sort of go, well, smoke and you think orange, but there's so much complication and technicality there that you've got to kind of sift through to find the right way of doing it.
Yeah, a lot of things that don't taste great initially, you know, it starts off, we use far too much smoke with the wrong smoke, and it tastes awful, but we learn and then we rein it back a bit. And there's that process where it does just take that kind of trial and error to get to where you want it to be.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much. That's really, really helpful, and hopefully encourage people to get on board with this, because it's certainly a gin worth trying. I'm going to move on quickly to, I'm curious for this for my own reasons as well. So obviously you've got out an RTD, which, you know, we've been seeing an increasing trend of in recent years, and I've been writing a bit about RTDs recently, so I'm quite interested selfishly to talk to you about it as well. So how was your journey creating this? Because some people have found it quite tricky.
We found it really tricky. So our starting point is we want it to taste of rock growth. So when we did the initial trials, you couldn't taste any of the gin through it, whether that's because it's the lower ABV or whether it's because the tonic that you use to make the RTD. You just couldn't do it, and we rejected so many. And I mean, we probably started this journey 4 years ago, and every sample we got rejected, and then we kind of gave up. And then Andrew approached us from Cushy Doos, and we know that Cushy Doos works with rock rose, and I said, you know what, let's give it a try. We're starting off in a better position than we have before, where we know that the tonic should balance with the gin. So we did that, and Andrew, to his enormous credit, kind of took it on board. So he looked at how to get that balance right, get the ratio right, and also then what we could do to almost create it as a perfect serve. So there's orange distillate in there as well. So, you know, one of our perfect serves is with orange peel. So we looked at either using rosemary or orange peel, but orange peel was more easy to do. So Andrew then worked with a distillery down in Edinburgh to just trial that. So again, getting the right level of orange. So we got samples back with different carbonation, with different orange peel level, different ABV. That's a detail we went into. And at the end, we were really happy with the fact that we could taste rock rose through it. It was good tonic. It was like, you know, you could argue it's the perfect Scottish gin and tonic combination. And then it's got the orange, so it's almost like a perfect serve ready to go. And that took a long time. So, you know, 3 years of probably giving up, and then 2 years of working with Andrew to make it right.
Oh, lovely. Well done again, because there are some people that have kind of fallen by the wayside on, actually, you know, because as soon as you start, I mean, you've got 6% ABV on here, which is like quite nice and relative, and then you get places trying to do like 4 or 5. Obviously, the lower you go, the more you have your stability, and then you have to start bringing other things, especially like using fruit and stuff as well. Like the shelf, you can become a real struggle when you start having to add things like preservatives that then affect the flavour. And it's a minefield.
It is an absolute minefield, and then you're into like pasteurization, labeling, all of these things. And after you've developed the product, then add even more complexity. And we're the first to say that, you know, canning's not what we do. So we were lucky to partner with a small kind of micro canner down in Glasgow contract bottlers. So you've got a Scottish tonic, Scottish gin, all canned in Scotland. And it was great because it meant that we could try a smaller run and get feedback from customers without committing to large volumes. And so far it's gone really well, actually. We're really pleased with it, with the feedback, and we kind of feel it's going to be a great option for events in 2023.
Nice. Well done, and I'm glad this is coming into fruition for you. It's a lot of time, a lot of patience, and generally a bit of investment as well. So
that's right.
And just continuing on the RTD vibes, although some might say this is more RTS than RTD. I don't know if you've heard about this. This is a David T. Smith thing, I think. RTD ready to drink, that's like recognised. But now he thinks you're entering the realm of RTS ready to serve, where you have to do a little something with it first. You can't just neck it from wherever it is. So here we have, and thank you so much for sending this to me, because I've been really wanting to try this for a while. It's your Vesper. So the Holy Vesper. So it's mixed with the Holy Grass Vodka, Rock Rose Gin, and British Vermouth. And I've been very excited to try this, and I have pre-prepared. I didn't have any apple. I'm so sorry. I should have read the back in a bit more detail before we got started. But I have had this in the freezer for a bit this morning. And very excited, because for a while we were getting sort of martini RTDs. I'm starting to see some Vespers out there, and really pleased to see your one. I know David's very keen to try this as well. Do you want to tell us a bit about making this one?
Yeah, so we've been working with Julio at the Bottle and Bar Shop, and he's been helping with our kind of RTS cocktails that we do for Christmas. So we had a gingerbread espresso martini, we've done a spice Negroni, and we wanted to give kind of the both products in the same glass, and we were serving Holy Grass as a martini on its own, and then we tried a Vesper martini, oh gosh, at the start of the year, and we absolutely loved it. And again, it was a slightly different serve with the apple peel to complement the flavors in Holy Grass. And it's nice. I mean, you can taste the Holy Grass through there, through that. And again, Julio's great. He works with small producers to create these products. So I think it's in the Loop vermouth that he's used in that. So it's great to have other craft producers working with us to do this cocktail. And I love it. And I think it's not as potent as a Vesper that you'd get in a bar, but in some way that lends itself to being more accessible as an introduction to Vespers.
Certainly, and it's got a really beautiful character. I think it said somewhere on the back, reflects the Caffeinasse way. So yeah, you've got these lovely flavours, and they work really well together. It's really beautiful. I'm sure Dave's going to be very keen to try this. So thank you very much. I will be sending some of this his way too. And we've just done an RTD of the Year competition actually, Crafting Expo. But if we get around to do that next year, I will give you checks. It's free to enter. So like, yeah, you can really send stuff down for that. We'll happily drink it and judge it. It's a professional thing, I promise. It is. Yes, and just moving on now to so yeah, I wanted to get an update. For people who've watched the last video, we touched on the new premises. And I understand that's been very busy for you in the last year. So just an update on that would be fab.
Yes, you can see over my shoulder lots of plans on the wall and drawings. So we took ownership of the mill in November 2020. We would have taken ownership in March 2020. So I'll just wait the door open. Dog's going out. I knew that he'd get his moment on camera.
Who can blame him?
We took ownership of the mill in November 2020. It would have been March 2020, but for the events back then. And we looked to develop a whisky distillery. So we've driven past the mill. Well, I've driven past the mill since when I was 17, 15 years ago. Loved it, but it's just dilapidated and didn't know how to use it. So it's always been pie in the sky, you know, the sort of stuff that you dream about that never going to happen. But then when we started this business, I started to think we might be able to just kind of fix it and use it for storage, but again, kind of didn't make sense. And as just things evolved with this business, I started to kind of get more imaginative and start to then look to try and make a business plan stack up for the whisky distillery. And we managed to do that. So we bought it in November 2020. We spent all of 2021 working with Historic Environment Scotland, the conservation planners and our architects to make sure that the plans were agreeable for all of us. So it's really difficult. We have a listed building. We have a building on the building at risk register, and we want to restore it sympathetically, but we also have to make it fit for purpose for the use that we want to do. Yeah, and there's always these kind of compromises along the way. So we've done that. We got planning permission earlier this year. We were about to get a building warrant at the end of October, and we look to start work in January next year. We've already built a bottling warehouse on site, which will be our long-term home for bottling for all of the products. And that's meant that we've put the infrastructure in already. What we're doing now is the kind of detail on how we want our product to taste and how we want to develop the product. So I've been out in a combine harvester getting some barley. Yes, I'm a town boy, so I've never been out in a farm. So I managed to get a trip out on a combine harvester, do some harvesting with barley, and start to understand that from the farmer's perspective. So we are looking to use barley from within 5 miles of the distillery, looking to have a positive impact. So we want to encourage responsible farming on how we use the barley and how then it's kind of grown the following year. But we also want to go back and look at the heritage barley that would have been grown by the owner's great-grandfather and understand the impact of that on flavour and obviously yield. But we want to be a flavour-driven distillery. So we're doing that. We're harvesting yeast from the site to see if we can use a local yeast, or whether we use a local yeast with a commercial yeast in our product, and developing all of these concepts, like how do we take it through? We want to use water from the sites. We're going to be drilling boreholes in February next year, and again, tying in with the ethos of this distillery, we want it to have a low impact on the environment. So we've done the kind of obvious things. We're going to use a renewable electricity source to power the stills, but we're doing the less obvious things, where we're allocating space for biodiversity for the Bumblebee Conservation Trust, so we can start the site from the place it's in at the moment, but to allocate lots of different zones for different biodiversity projects. And that's like brilliant. It's great to do that now at such an early stage. So,
absolutely. It must be so exciting for you, having seen this place for so many years, and like to see it just turning into this dream that you had. And like, you're doing so much. I mean, touching on the like the heritage barley. So I've been doing a bit of work around heritage grains recently. I wrote an article for Distiller magazine. So I spoke to the Oxford Arts and Distillery.
brilliant stuff they do, yeah.
Yeah, and there's an amazing chap in the US called Gary, who has a place called Woodhat, who's been reviving these old types of corn that are pretty much gone. And like the general consensus of all this stuff is that these really flavorful grains have been bred out because of yield. So you're kind of just left with this very flat thing. Well, that's what we're used to. That's what we're used to having. But like, having tried some samples from these places, like the flavors you get are just unreal. So I think Holyrood do some stuff like that as well, don't they? So but there's people out there to talk to, but I honestly never thought I'd find farming interesting. But I was having these chats, I was like, I'm so interested in what's going on with the farm. Absolutely loving it.
You hear stories of barley being rejected because it's so many points below the required yields for a commercial distillery, and you think, incredible. Like, it doesn't make a huge difference on the overall cost in a bottle, but obviously on a huge scale it does. But for us, that's not what we want to do. The guys at Dornoch Distillery have played with maltings, and it's great just to see other distilleries doing that and having that interest. And for us, it's everywhere up here is growing Golden Promise for breweries at the moment, highest yield. We're now looking to ask them to switch that out and give them more favourable terms to grow barley that they would have grown 60 years ago. And they want to do that. They're really interested in that. They want to try these things. They know they can grow Golden Promise every year. But having a challenge of trying to set up different growing zones for different products, they're really quite interested in. Yeah,
that's lovely. I think there's from what I gather from the people I've spoken to, there's also an argument as well with the idea of a changing climate. The sort of, if we're relying on just a couple of different types of strain that are sort of used to growing in this climate, if things change, like sometimes you can find that it's suddenly not growing so well. I think John Letts, who does the growing for the Oxford Arts and Distillery, he's got his own farm and they work with him, and he was saying that by having like different types of grain together, each year the strong ones are growing back and it's kind of all coming back like that, so it's naturally fortifying itself against changing conditions, which just the barley at the moment doesn't do that. So yeah, really interesting times, I think. And I mean, we're seeing more and more people doing it. I still think this is very early days, and we're going to start seeing really great stuff happening.
Yeah, and we're just I'm not from a farming background, so we're starting to just kind of scratch the surface on this and start to learn about how we can have a positive impact by the way that we request the barley, or how we do things. So we're trying to learn that. We're kind of getting up to speed on it, and it's challenging a bit when you're trying to look at that on all other areas of the business.
That's like one thing, and there's like so many other things, so no wonder you're busy at the moment.
And the great thing is the mill has been unsafe for, I would say, 50-60 years, and we've made it safe in the last month. So we had our first 2 hard hat tours on Saturday, so it was amazing to be able to take people who live in the village who've never seen inside the mill, take them in for the first time, and it was such a positive experience. I didn't anticipate it being like that. I thought it would be quite a lot of questions about 200 years of history that I've been kind of learning up, trying to remember, but no, they were just so thrilled to see the spaces, to understand how they were used, and then how we were going to use them. So it was so rewarding. It's such a nice feeling, and you know, with the project, there's so much headaches and hassle that comes with a 200-year-old building, but it's like those moments that kind of makes you feel like, yeah, it's worthwhile. What we're doing is worthwhile, and it's just a shot in the arm really to keep you going.
Yeah, oh, that's lovely. Oh, that must have been a wonderful moment, like the first sort of landmark.
Yeah, that's the first time. I
landmark, yeah.
totally forgot to take a photo of the guys, but fortunately everybody else took photos, so I've got other people's memories that I'm using my own memory.
Oh, wonderful, good stuff. And yeah, finally, really, just your opportunity for anything else. If there's anything else you want to add, anything we haven't touched on, anything else you want to share, really? Put you on the spot.
No, not really. I guess you know, I kind of touched on in our pre-chat where I said that, you know, things are better, things we kind of feel like we're coming out of the pandemic, and that it's been a bit easier for business, but in a lot of ways it's still really hard, you know, the energy costs, glass availability, these things. So I've been banging the drum even more than ever now to buy from small producers, because they're the ones who really are going to find this winter challenging. They don't really have the reserves of the big guys. So every bottle I'm buying these days is from small distilleries, small breweries, and I'm just worried that message might be lost this year, because that message is not getting out that it's going to be a challenging winter for small distilleries. So yeah. I'm just banging the drum for that. So using this moment to try and encourage others to do the same.
Yeah, I think that's an important call to arms, because the thing is as well, is when people start to, you know, if they're being careful with their own cost, like spending and stuff, they might sort of go for sort of more, you know, basic lower cost products.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like, yeah, no, it's absolutely right. Everybody's kind of got to stick together and keep supporting each other and keep the circle moving. And then, you know, hopefully we'll see some better days for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, like, we've now realized the importance of the likes of small breweries and small distilleries in their communities. So yeah, you're seeing that already. You're seeing we're seeing that in our local community, that locals are now supporting us more than they ever have. So it's great. You know, it's really good. It's good to know that that is happening.
Yeah, lovely stuff. All right, well, I'm going to say goodbye now and stop the recording. So thank you so much for joining me. A pleasure to catch up as always, and thanks for making the time. So I know you're quite busy.
No, thank you very much. Yeah, great to catch up, and yeah, hopefully do it again next year.
Okay, okay. And